Going into the Showtime portion, opening fight.
Our guy.
Frank Martin.
Yep. I was about to call him Frank the Tank. That's disrespectful.
Not a bad thing to be referred to as a tank, though.
Oh, yeah.
Will Ferrell in Old School got you feeling like that's not a good thing?
He looks solid versus a quality opponent.
Yeah, Jackson Marinez, last minute opponent. What do you think there, Showtime?
Absolutely. Everything that we've been saying about Frank Martin, we saw it all just last night. And a great finish, too.
Even if it's in 12 rounds, still close the show.
Come on, man. And they had Derrick James. I don't want to take anything from Frank Martin, but just to go to Derrick James real quick, they had him at the desk and they're interviewing him. Hey, what are you doing to make these fighters as great as they are? And he's saying, he gave us a little bit of, how he trains, but I just take a look at the way Errol Spence Jr. finished your Dennis Ugas, and then the way Jermell Charlo finished Castaño, and then the way Frank Martin just finished Marinez is like, they're very, I mean, what bad can you say?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? About just the overall camp. And so the reason why I brought up Derrick James in the camp is because when you talk about a guy like Frank Martin, who I think is still under the radar, and I think that fight may have kind of raised some eyebrows, but he's still under the radar. And he said at the end of the fight, put me at the table with those guys. I want to be there. I'm not even saying I deserve to be there. Put me there because I want to be there. You know what I mean? I've been advocating for him for a little while now that he deserves to be there. But then when you take a look at what his camp is like and what his coaching is like, I think if anything, we know he's going to be prepared for whoever they put in front of him. So if it's not the quickness of Frank Martin, if it's not the speed of Frank Martin, if it's not the intuitive mindset that he has to make the right moves at the right time, the punch placement that I saw last night, of course, the power and the agility. I mean, he brings a lot to the ring. He's not just an aggressive fighter. He's not just a counterpuncher. He's not just a mover. He does it all. If all of that doesn't sell you on Frank Martin, then take a look at his camp.
Yeah.
Take a look at Derrick James and understand that, whatever you think he's lacking or whatever doesn't make him a superstar, Derrick James will make him that guy that can get him into that phase of being a superstar.
And he got off to an early lead, and then towards like the middle end of the fight, there were a couple rounds where it seemed like he took his foot off the gas a little bit, where Marinez got going a little bit, and then in the corner, Derrick James was pretty much like, hey.
Yeah, and no excuses. I just thought that it was something that Marinez had saw. He just started throwing the right hand. Yeah. He started landing the right hand.
Marinez is no slouch.
Yeah.
That's not to say that, Frank Martin just let him take the rounds like Marinez.
Technically,
fighter.
Marinez beat Rolly. Say what you want.
Well, that was a close fight.
No, here you go. Here you go.
I got to watch it again, though.
But so even after that, so he has this little bit of a lull, and then Derrick James is like, bring the tempo back up, and he blasts him out of there.
Yeah.
Derrick James is one of the coaches we always give praise. Shawn always says he wants to hear something in the corner. He always giving great instructions. Yeah. It's not just turn it up.
Every time I hear in the corner, I mean, it's direct, it's detailed, it's simple, it's detailed. It's not too much. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And what it does is not only is it everything you guys mentioned, then it's implemented.
Yeah.
Every time I've heard Derrick James, he'll give you something. Blah blah. Do this. And so we hear that, and then you watch the next round, you're like, that's what he said to do. And unbelievable job.
Trust.
From Frank
and Derrick James. That's trust.
No,
but anyway.
Like you said, him getting these stoppages in his last couple outings with Martin, Spence, and Charlo, that's what, Emmanuel Stewart at the peak of his powers, when he was considered maybe the best trainer in boxing, like Derrick is right now. He really wanted the finishing touches on his fighters' performances, getting that stoppage in the late rounds, and that's what Derrick is producing. And even though he won Trainer of the Year 5 years ago, when we looked at the trainer tracks watching the fights last night, and they go to, because, I think you guys were there too, but I attended the Charlo Castaño fight. So this is my first time hearing Derrick in the corner on the trainer tracks. And he said this to Brian Custer before the fight started, he has grown. He continues to grow as a trainer. Yeah, he won Trainer of the Year 5 years ago, but I think he's even better now. And he was a kind of soft-spoken, Texas guy where, he didn't talk loud to get his point across. He, wasn't boastful or nothing like that. But you saw that in the corner with Charlo. He was so animated and his voice was turned up a notch. And I almost saw from that, that comes from that extra amount of belief in himself now. He's that much more sure in himself. And maybe he really is rounding into being the best trainer in boxing.
He is the best trainer in boxing.
It's another thing that people miss. The experiences in the fight are not just for the fighter. It's also for the coach.
Right.
And I remember, like, as I would play it back, I remember my dad had experiences to the point where he had a very systematic corner. We'd be walking to the fight. He's like, you got the bucket, you got the stool, or I got the fight, whatever the case may be. But he had everything very regimented based on the experiences that he had. And then you talk about, him being able to further my career. And I think people were like, Shawn should leave his dad, but I never left my dad, and we continued to grow together. And it was because we both were having experiences. It wasn't just my dad was just watching my experiences and then going back to the gym. We both, in the moment, in fight moments, were both learning and experiencing things. And I think that's what we've seen.
He was growing as a trainer as you were growing as a
and that's what
fighter,
we've seen
right?
Derrick do now. Yeah.
And as we continue against Derrick, his flowers.
James.
Yeah, Mr. James, Derrick James, whatever.
DJ.
Yeah, we keep
2022 trainer of the year.
Okay, Carson. Speaking in existence.
Got to. Go ahead.
But it's Terrence and his training keeps saying you let Terrence grow into his division. I keep picking Earl because I feel the trainer is going to be a difference. You let Derrick James get more and more and more experience. He's fighting in world title fights. I mean, from every fight except Frank, but he's fighting in world title fights back to back to back. More experience, and I feel like that's going to be a difference in the fight.
Sometimes though, the guy, Virgil Hunter has trained a couple of world champions, Amir Khan, Mario Barrios, but when he was with Andre Ward, he was a different level of chemistry there. And maybe Bomac has that with Terrence where, okay, maybe he's not going to, when it's all said and done, have the accomplishments Derrick James has. But when he's with this guy, Bud Crawford, they're money together. So we'll see. It's going to be a great matchup.
Hell of a fight.
And they're going to go.
You got Terrence Crawford?
Yeah, I still got Terrence.
I got Earl Spence.
How does every boxing conversation end up back on Spence Crawford?
Who you got?
I got Spence. I haven't changed off that.
Yeah, it's good for him.
So moving forward to fights in the future that could happen.
You're the biggest question mark out of everybody.
How do
week of.
Read between the lines. You could just, that's all I'll say.
How do we feel about
You calling it?
About Frank Martin's
Right as they walk
You calling it?
Yeah, hell, I better be.
So Frank Martin, what do we think? How do we think he could go next? Any fighters you think? Errol,
I got a list.
Errol mentioned Rolly.
That'd be wonderful.
That was my last.
Errol said it yesterday, and Errol also had a hilarious Twitter exchange with one Chris Colbert today on Twitter. Hit him with the, you effed up, right? Because apparently Chris Colbert wants to maybe fight Frank Martin.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
So yeah.
Carson, you should have got in there and said, "Don't do that."
So what was your list?
I got Joseph Diaz.
JoJo, okay.
Yeah, JoJo. Pitbull.
Isak, okay.
And then I had Rolly. I got him beating Rolly, man.
So
I do too.
I wish was there, Leonard.
So 2 T's. I'm an ant with 2 T's. Unfortunately, JoJo, Golden Boy.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't.
Right. And the other two. So, and I think Romero and Cruz are going to look at him, or if not them, but their teams, or so, and say this guy's a little too dangerous.
Risk reward.
So I'm thinking, because there's a clump of guys at 35 that are really good at below the Tank Haney, like that level, at Lomachenko, and I think that him and Michelle Rivera would be a good fight. Michelle Ali Rivera. If not Michelle Ali Rivera, I just don't think that Rayo Valenzuela, Rolly Romero,
too early for Rayo.
Cruz. I don't think, too early for Rayo probably. I don't think those guys are going to be anxious to fight a guy like Frank Martin right now for the level of risk reward, like Ant said. So maybe Michelle Rivera.
Good fight.
That's a good fight.
Yeah, it's a good technical fight as well.
And
he's not the only guy. There's a lot of guys at lightweight, but that level of guy.
50 guys at lightweight. Yeah,
I think he's ranked in Carson. Relax.
WBA.
I think damn it, Carson. Yeah, he ranked in the WBA, so they got to show my guys some love in a minute.
Unbelievable. I think any of those are good fights. I do think he probably beats Rolly. But Frank Martin's not going to be easy out for anybody. And he's just going to continue. He started, when we had him on, he didn't start boxing super early. He was a teenager when he started boxing. So all of the rounds he's getting are important rounds as a professional without that, deep amateur experience.